All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started here? And I just want to double check to make sure this is being recorded. Haley, if you can just give a thumbs up on that. But first of all, welcome everybody. We have a great group of people here. Some people who I both admire in the local entrepreneur communities. One of RAD's investors, and a bunch of investors from both RAD side and Jurny side. And the topic today is we're going to talk about anything and everything AI related, and it's going to be a fun, organic conversation. So we hope you learn from it. So before we get started, I'm just going to introduce everybody that's on the panel today, and then kick it over to you, Tess, to lead. But there's a new face here who's one of our VC investors, Taissa. Taissa is one of the venture partners over at Expert Dojo. We also have gentleman, Mr. Alex Canter. He's a friend, fourth generation Canter from the family Canter Deli. If you guys are familiar with LA food, old school style, then you know who they are. He also is a recent exited founder who raised over $100 million for his last venture. He's also on Luca's board. So a great human being. We're looking forward to getting some insights there. And then the gentleman, the good looking gentleman in the blue Navy t-shirt, is Mr. Luca Zambello. Luca is the CEO and founder of a company called Jurny, which a lot of you are already investors in too, and some of you are going to be exposed to what they do today for the first time. And of course, I'm Jeremy, CEO and a co-founder of RAD AI. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to you, Taissa, to get things rolling. And we're definitely looking forward to having a lively conversation with everybody today.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeremy. So my name is Taissa Maleh. I am portfolio manager and general partner at Expert Dojo. I joined Expert Dojo at the beginning of the year, but we have already invested in 250 companies in the early stage. So we're pre-seed investors, sector agnostic, geo agnostic. And perhaps, like one of the beauty of the things that we do is because we're so early stage, we have like this long time horizon, and the long time horizon, it's actually very important, and it's a key thing over here when we talk about AI. So I'm super excited. Everything that I look for, I want to be tech enabling, regardless of the sector that you are, but you need to have the tech enabling so you can get to scalability. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to back Jeremy and RAD AI, and I look forward to this conversation. So I'll kick it over to Alex. Alex, tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, thanks for joining. And I promise we didn't mean to all wear black t-shirts on this call. This is a coincidence. As Jeremy mentioned, I'm fourth generation Canter's Deli, and also founded a tech company in the restaurant space back in 2017. Scaled that business over the last 6.5 years, raising from groups like SoftBank and many other prominent VCs, we were in the technology world for restaurants, which is very outdated and old school. Not a lot of AI in the restaurant industry, but it's starting to get there, and it's exciting. But I recently exited a month ago, and I've been working with Luca, alongside Luca, for a while now, just watching him take over the world and be on the cutting edge of technology. It's been fun to watch from the sidelines and root from a distance. Happy to be here, though. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Luca, you want to give a quick introduction of yourself as well?
Luca Zambello, founder and CEO of Jurny. I've been involved in the hospitality industry for quite a while now, about 12 years. Was originally born and raised in Italy. Moved here with the excuse of studying, but really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've got involved super early on, and one of the biggest things that I've seen at the time scaling a management company to 300 units was the fragmentation of the industry, and how from one side you have the hotels where they don't want to adopt technologies, they're like slow moving, and then on the other side you have a new industry coming up, a new section of the industry that is developing, which is the short-term rental business. And a lot of these companies are actually early adopter in technologies, but the biggest issue I've found was fragmentation of the industry and how hard it is to implement different technologies. And so that's the reason why we created Jurny. put these technologies as a easy to use solution for the whole industry to adopt, and really bringing things that are not so easy to use and make them easy to use, including AI.
Thank you, Luca. You said a lot of stuff there I want to unpack. Luca's also a client of Rad AI, so I want to say that he's a very, very smart CEO and founder because he was smart enough to use our products and services. He's also a friend and a colleague for over a decade now. So it's been a lot of fun watching you. Maybe we could just kind of kick off the conversation today and just talk about, like artificial intelligence. Like somebody asked me like how big they think the AI market is as a whole the other day. And then I started thinking about what that actually means in the scope of generative AI, where we are today with generative AI, then how we think about solving problems with artificial intelligence. So one of the things that I thought about was, without a problem to be solved, the word artificial intelligence is borderline jargony and means absolutely nothing. So maybe we could start with you, Alex, with respect to how do you think or feel about AI and how it's applied towards a problem? Because at the end of the day, the only thing that really matters isn't the AI. It's actually the problem that's being solved. How do you think about that?
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. So I've been advising and investing and involved in many tech startups, and I think what we're seeing right now is this explosive amount of capital going into AI companies and companies that are using AI. But I think what's really important is not the AI itself. To your point, it's being able to grow and have higher output than has ever been possible historically. I think Luca, one of the things I admire about your business is like, it's not an AI company. It's a company solving a real problem that has good underlying unit economics and a real business model and real revenue. And you're using AI to accelerate your growth, to reduce your headcount, to be able to be more efficient with the way that you burn and spend, to actually build a real company. And I think that will be the difference between the hundreds of companies that are getting these inflated valuations right now. Obviously, a lot of them are going to combust and crash. Some of them will probably make it, just like we saw in the .com boom. But I think what really matters is that there's a real business underneath it all, and that you're using AI to make one person as efficient as what used to be 2 people or 3 people. And I think that's really more possible now than ever before, for people who are leaning in and embracing it, and on the cutting edge of it. And I even have a friend whose company has a couple hundred employees. They just bought ChatGPT Pro for all of their whole team to be able to start using it in all these different ways. And I really do think it's changing the game for customer support, and content creation is kind of the early steps, but I think there's a lot more to come. So I'll start with that. I know I was kind of all over the place, but I'll let anyone else.
Like any good founder, we get the luxury oftentimes of thinking around different circles. I think it's important. And Luca, when you thought of I've always been fascinated by the problem that you started, because you couldn't just say I want to do an AI for hospitality, right? That doesn't make sense. Like at the end of the day, how did you know when starting Jurny that there was you have to be an expert at the thing, I would assume, right? And I think it's really interesting when you unpack it from a founder's perspective, how you figure out a way to use a generative AI to solve a specific problem where you're an actual expert in the space. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I think this is even the conversation that we had prior, the 4 of us, we all see that what I think I divide kind of the AI industry in 2 buckets. You have obviously this large language models, and these large models, the opportunity is only for a few people and the top 5, 6 tech companies that are out there. I I see that be just a handful of people, but what I see for every industry, there's going to be an AI disruptor. For majority of the industry, there's going to be one or two AI disruptors. And I think what's very special, what this company needs to have, and includes us, and I think you, Jeremy, exactly the same, is have some type of proprietary data and a proprietary infrastructure. If you don't have an infrastructure, if you don't have something that is a business on its own already, or there can be almost a standalone business already, it really doesn't matter, right? Because for the AI to be like, everybody's used to using ChatGPT. Yes, you saw the potential, you see it's good, but it's kind of like cute. Yeah, it helps you, but it's like really no big deal. But when you start seeing really the power of AI where it is already today, and I think that's where there's a disconnect, where people think where AI is today, where it really actually is when you focus it on a specific use case and you put it in a confined environment and you give very specific data and information to work off. And what you see the results of that's what's mind-blowing. That's where you can see where AI can already pass the Turing test and have a full conversation with people, and people on the other end don't even know that they're talking to an AI, where the AI actually can handle and solve tasks for these people. And when it actually is done better than human beings already for many ways. So that for us, for our specific use case, to answer your questions, trying to make a long story short, but having an infrastructure that helped already automate and unify a lot of different components when it comes to property management in hospitality, combine that with AI, it just 10x basically the capability and the and really the efficiency of these companies, and allow the AI specifically to have access to unique information, like the guest information, the ability to troubleshoot things, moving check-in or check-out information based on the customer request, are knowing if there's different availabilities for this guest, knowing if the room is being clean or not, having access to access control systems so that it can troubleshoot if there's a lock not working or not functioning. This is where I think the opportunity really lies, and I think you're doing something very similar. Obviously, in a completely different industry, but that is the reason why we saw the opportunity. And I think you have to be really in it to understand and see this.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the stuff you said. I think the reason why these webinars are really awesome is because we get to give people that are supporting our missions a look under what it means to be a founder trying to solve a problem. And I have some color I wanted to add on some of the things you said, which we'll come back to. But Taissa, thinking about it from an investor perspective, right? Like if somebody says they have an AI startup, that almost like says, like somebody says, I have a startup on the internet. Like if somebody says that to me, that's what I think. How are you guys thinking about portfolio investments in the AI sector? Because if you look at AI as a sector, it's almost really not a sector. It's like AI is used within the framework of different sectors to solve specific problems. But I'm curious from a mandate perspective, and in theory, most of the people on this line right now are early stage investors. So who better to hear from an early stage investor that has 250 VC investments on how you guys are thinking about who you decide to back and who you don't decide to back?
I mean, you're absolutely right. I feel like at some point, let's call it like the first quarter, beginning of second quarter of this year, the amount of companies that they went from like the Web3 NFT space and they just rebranded to be an AI company and they all wanted funding was ridiculous. So it becomes like, I think Alex touched on this point. It's sort of the same place of the .com, right? It became like the new hot thing. Everybody wants to be involved in this. The way that I see it, it's actually a little bit different. I see it more of AI being more of a tool rather than a destination. Like one of the things that I like that both you, Jeremy, and Luca are building is that you guys are focusing on solving a real problem with a real solution. And you're using the capabilities and advancements of technology with AI, machine learning, and all the language models available in the world to be able to efficiently solve that problem. That's the whole thing, like I've been mentioning this for a while now, but I don't see AI as going from landline phones to cell phones. that it's like an incremental change. I actually see more as we had horses and now we have cars. We're going from point A to point B way faster. And because that's what we are trying to do, right? And then the same thing with the economy. Like we went from a manufacturing economy to a service economy here in the US. Why? Well, because now we have a certain level of intelligence of people working, of people actually being able to use, like their manual labor. And now they need to get to the next level and use their brain, the creativity. And they just use technology in order to get to that advancement. That's what AI does for me. That's how I see AI. So I've been an investor for most of my life. I started working in 2007, and I've been in the public markets and on the private markets, both in the late stage and the early stage. And I kid you not, the most interesting thing that I find is like Wall Street is moving on AI now. And it makes, instead of moving on interest rates for a very short period of time, where all we're talking about Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic and how there's all of a sudden this dry up in funding in the venture community. And then AI came in with OpenAI, hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars by Microsoft for the acquisition. And then all of a sudden AI, like there's this boom in investments coming through AI. So that's why I think, like for an early stage investments, when we looked at the time horizon of our investments, it's typically around 7 years for us to be able to see like a big, massive return. Then, yeah, do I think that AI is the next industrial revolution? 100%. But it's not every company that's doing that, right? Again,
and maybe
real problem, real solution.
And maybe it'll shorten that timeline from 7 years to 5 as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, because we're becoming patient here, right? Exactly.
Yeah, there's I always think of like, we had a really fun conversation at the dojo a couple weeks ago, and there was a lot of these discussions going on that night about like good parts of AI and bad parts of AI. And there was some people that had these very opaque, like, well, AI is just bad. I don't want somebody writing my emails for me, or AI is just bad. I don't trust the information it's given to me. And then like one of the things I countered with is I said, look, it's important that we all challenge ourselves to ask more questions that are like, what do you mean bad? Or what do you mean write the email for you? Because if you understand ChatGPT-4, or you understand artificial intelligence and the problem that it's being tasked to help you solve, it's essentially being put in place to help you be better at the thing that you're trying to accomplish, right? That's what artificial intelligence is. In Rad's case, we're using artificial intelligence to understand the different sentiment-based communication points that improve the communication structure between a customer and a brand, and brands are rewarded with quantitatively better ROI when they communicate better with their customers. We all kind of intuitively know that, but there's data points that can help. But that's the problem that we're solving. The problem that Luca is solving is he's figured out a variety of different communication points and issues associated with the hospitality industry as a whole. And also, I think hospitality as a generalization is probably one of the slowest moving industries out there from an innovation perspective. But he's figured out a way to automate several of these different environments and literally be a one-stop shop for a person who wants to manage, maybe we'll call it 10 short-term rentals, right? So there's different ways to think about it. I think the most important thing is, if you don't have a business problem that you're solving, or maybe it's a human problem that you're solving, there's no reason to talk about AI, because it doesn't matter. And there's, there's some of the things that I've learned recently just with respect to like how we're thinking about our own go-to-market strategy and where we are in the boom. The only thing I don't agree with you guys all on is I don't think we've seen the boom yet. I think the boom is coming. I'm a big believer. I am so bullish on where we are with artificial intelligence. And I think this is going to sneak up on everybody, where it's going to be so in everybody's face. And I think the cream is going to rise and the bad is going to go down. And that's what happens because we are capitalists. We live in a capitalist society. This is America. There's always going to be good. There's always going to be bad. And there's always going to be everything in between. You cannot have great without really, really bad. You cannot have mediocre without just okay. And this is the way our economy is driven. And I feel the same way about all of the different ways people are using artificial intelligence for good. And also, bad actors are using artificial intelligence for bad. those dynamics are always going to exist. They have to exist in order to counterbalance each other. So, I would say, Alex, you've kind of been around the block a few different times, and you also think about things now at this stage in your career from more of an investor and advisor perspective. How are you thinking about where the future lies with not just your own AI investments, but maybe some stealth projects that you're getting into that you're not even able to talk about today?
I think you made a lot of great points there, Jeremy, and I think what I'm really curious to see is like there's so many founders and CEOs that I meet that are just not even leaning in to this space. I'm wondering if this is gonna be like a bloodbath for people who are not embracing. I see people leaning in super hard as well, and I think that that's absolutely the right approach right now, is just to be learning and playing around and messing around with these hundreds of tools that are being created, these Google Chrome plugins that are making humans more efficient. I think I am concerned when I hear people are like, oh, I don't need that in my business, because there's just so many disruptive things that you can do. Even if it's just incorporated into social media strategy or like media specifically. Like I think I'm nervous to see what's going to happen, because things are moving so quickly. And I think I talk to people all the time who are just like, whatever, AI, they can do whatever they're doing over there, but I'm focused on my business and building my company. And I think that there are still good businesses that can be created, obviously, without AI, but I feel like in Luca's point, in all these different verticals, there's going to be a couple of category leaders that emerge that are just super machines that are way more effective and efficient than anything that's ever been seen or done before. And I'm with you, Jeremy. I think we're still in the very early innings of all of this. But I'm dumbfounded and surprised when I hear people just ignoring this whole category completely. And I do think that goes into my decision making of, whether someone is building a company efficiently and with all of the tools that are available in today's world. So at least for when I'm looking at and doing diligence on companies, I think it's important for me to at least check a box like, okay, this person is at least leaning in and understanding and figuring out ways in which they can use these tools that are available. It doesn't need to be an AI company for me to get excited. It's got to be solving to what I was saying earlier. It's got to be real underlying good business thesis and all of that first. So
those are, as usual, Alex, illuminating points. I love listening to you talk. You always have really clever things that I can latch onto and then talk about later to somebody else as if I know what I'm really talking about. So thank you for that.
I wanted to add something actually onto what Alex said. I think one of the things that actually what you said, Jeremy, all of us said, is that there was a study, I think it was Stanford University study that came out 7 years ago, predicting exactly where we will be in AI evolution today. And what they say on average, we're going to be doubling power in terms of AI every 3.5 months. And I just want to put things in perspective, that if you take an IQ of 90 and an IQ of 180 of a person, the difference is insane. We're talking about obviously sub-average capability to actually one of the most intelligent persons in the world, right? And we're kind of sitting at the 90 level right now. But when you double that in power, that's the thinking exponential is hard for human beings, because like we all think linear growth, but here we're talking exponential growth. So, and why I think Alex says like it's kind of scary when people are not looking at this is because, yeah, some trends in the past took several years to evolve. This is not the case. The next step of evolution, the next version of language models, we're going to pass human intelligence for an insane amount of tasks. We already have in some specific tasks, but this is what's about to happen. And if you have not started working on it today, actually 6 months ago, honestly, at least 6 months ago, you're already behind. And let alone if you're thinking that you're not going to do it for another 6 months, the capability and Tess said like really something really smart, because she said like, we're not going from, it's not a small evolution, we're going from horses to cars. The ability of efficiencies that these companies are going to be able to have and provide to their customers, it's going to be light years ahead, right? And we already see it in our industry. We already see what things are happening and how management companies that are utilizing our tools properly and what our tools can already do for them. You know, if you think about it, just in US alone, between hotels and short-term rentals, there's $355 billion being spent in operational costs alone. If you can just reduce that by 30%, and this is a very conservative number when I talk about 30%, you do the math of the opportunity. And this is one sector, one industry is going to happen across the globe with every single industry.
I mean, that's absolutely
Yeah.
right. You know, like if I can just add one thing, because that's the whole point of why this time is like maybe like the third industrial revolution, whatever you want to call it. It's a different point in time where we're getting. So bring it back to the applications, to the day-to-day applications. And there's a question over here in the chat. So I just want to make sure that we cover that, you know, like some real life specific examples of how each one of you guys are actually using AI, you know, like to solve a real problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that well,
Go for
Luca's specific, the example Luca just gave is highly specific for hospitality. And most of the people that are on this call right now are investors of RAD, so they know what problem RAD is solving, but you know, high level, we're solving the problem of bad communication. I think there's like close to 17 trillion digital messages a day that go out across the internet. And all of those messages are an opportunity to connect with somebody if you have a personal relationship with them, or if you're a brand, all of those messages are an opportunity to attract a customer. So the value of being able to put the right thing in front of the right person at the right time in a way that's deemed authentic is the problem that we're solving. And if you think about it as a whole, every vertical or every industry is going to have a different specific use case. The reason why I really love what we're building here at RAD, and the reason why Luca and I have become really good friends over the years, and the reason why we work together, is because I also understand what Luca is building, and he's also solving a very specific problem through artificial intelligence. But Luca is an expert in the hospitality space, first and foremost, that figured out how to solve problems in that space. Luca didn't solve, when Luca founded Jurny, he wasn't like, hey, I'm going to create this AI. Before he did any of that, he had to understand a problem that mattered in the market space. And Alex, I would assume the same holds true with, you know, ventures that you've looked at. I would also assume the same holds true with entrepreneurs that you decide to invest into. I would assume the same holds true, Tess, with like some of the portfolio companies that you look at. It always starts with like, who's the jockey of the horse that I'm betting on, and how well do they understand the problem that they're saying that quote unquote AI or generative AI, or maybe it's a creative AI or whatever version of AI that they're building is going to solve, right? So those are always the places that I kind of go to. And, you know, like everybody's got a different map, of course, with, you know, what and how they think about things. And also, I did want to make sure that we did get to some of these questions here. Katie G, I believe your question was already answered. Jason Lopez asked, curious to hear your thoughts on how businesses can maintain a balance between artificial intelligence and the human touch. That is a great effing question. Who, and all four of us can talk on this. Who wants to tackle that one? Because that's a fun question to answer.
I want to start maybe like saying it from our standpoint. I think, and actually I want to address Carl's question as well, how we're doing this. So if you think about, this is actually a good question that I got even on a panel, especially in hospitality, because we're talking about like high human touch, right? That's what hospitality is about. This is high human touch. And this is where the gap of where AI is and really where it's going to be, and the general understanding of AI. AI is going to give you more customer experience as a guest, more accustomed to you, and more understanding actually what you like and you don't like than a human being will. AI doesn't have emotion, so it's not going to be in a bad mood ever. It's not going to give you the rude answer that you don't want, that you don't like. Think about how many times you deal with any type of customer support and you have a bad experience. The number's insane, right? You're removing all of that. Plus, you're adding the experience of talking with millions of guests, potentially every month, and unify this experience and understanding to a single source. So you're actually going to understand how to be a better customer support agent as an AI than the most experienced agent is ever going to be able to. And you're going to have access of real-time information. So you're going to know the historical of that guest. What do they like? What room temperature do they like when they check in? The AI can change the room temperature for you, make sure that you have everything. They know what type of restaurants you're going to like, what type of food you like. These are all things that are going to be learned and tailored to your stay. And this is, if you think about it, if you can do that, that's higher than a 5-star experience. And you're going to be able to do it with automations and AI. And even if you're managing a single Airbnb, this is where the true potential is happening. And I think in the end of the day, consumers are going to prefer an AI experience than a human experience. Of course, a little bit of human touch is always going to be great, but they're going to want to have a person that really knows them ins and out that can help them. And I think this applies, yes, to hospitality, but applies to every other sector.
Yeah. I would say being in the business of communication, which essentially RAD AI is in the business of helping brands speak authentically to their target customer for an outcome. So I would think that, the way this applies to hospitality concurrently applies at a very significant level to us. And people would say, well, I don't want AI creating content for me. It's going to lose the human touch. I don't want AI creating social media posts for me. It's going to lose the human touch. I don't want AI telling me what kind of video I should make or creating my video. It's going to lose the human touch. And when somebody says that, that's just literally an opportunity for education. From our perspective, the way we think about artificial intelligence is we're giving you the pieces of information as a content creator or marketer to be better. We're giving you an understanding of who your customer is, what their motivations are, the things that they care about today as it relates to your brand and the objective you're looking to achieve. So if you think about it in that context, we're essentially just making marketers and brands be better because, number one, as a brand, you want to speak better to your customer. Number two, as a marketer, you want to represent the brand that you're working for best and put together the best possible marketing campaign. Now, it can work to create a marketing or communication campaign. It can also work to save your ass, right? And what I mean by that is, we've seen a bunch of massive marketing mistakes at market lately. Anheuser-Busch lost $3 billion in market cap. Target lost $13 billion in market cap, $13 billion in market cap. And whether they were wrong, right, we're completely indifferent. From a company that is data-driven, that would have never in a million years happened if they were our customers, because our data would have said that their customers don't want to see the things that they put in front of them, right? So what ends up happening is they ended up alienating these new customers that they were trying to attract, plus alienating their existing customer base because they did something that was deemed to be BS and fake. So literally the exact same thing you just said, Luca. I said the same thing, but for our business, right? So it's really fascinating when you start to unpack these things and really understand the reasons why we do the things that we do. Coming into some closing thoughts here, Alex, we're right now biggest opportunities in specific verticals for artificial intelligence that you're looking at today. What's getting you excited in the morning?
What's getting me excited in the morning is an interesting question right now. I just I have more free time than usual. It's weird. I'm liking just being able to instead of like spending all of my time on one thing, I'm getting to spend my time on lots of little things, which has been different and fun for me. And I think I like having being able to share some of my experiences with many of the people who are earlier stage. I mean, I think right now is like the best time to be starting a company with the access to AI tools and everything that's possible right now. So, you know, I think that for companies that are like, you know, later stage right now, this is a terrible time to be to be manning a ship and running a business. You know, valuation multiples have come down, a lot of down rounds, a lot of structure is happening. But I think getting into the earlier stage stuff is really fun right now. Just because you can do what has never been able to be done before. Like in 2 seconds, I can have some AI tool build me a website for a CPG brand. I'm not a coder. I don't know how to build a website. I don't know how to, you know, do any of these things. And it's like, you know, we've been making progress in like self-creating tools for a while with Wix and all these other websites, but like what I've seen in the last couple of months has just completely blew my mind in terms of like what can be created and done to launch a company or to launch a business in days, not weeks. So I'm going to be probably starting a bunch of smaller endeavors and different experiments just to see what works and what's fun and what excites me. Keeps my flame going. So
Are you
Nice.
going to become
Important
the
to keep,
next?
yeah,
Sorry,
important to keep that
Jurny.
flame going, Tess, right? Important to keep the
I
flame
I was
going.
gonna
I
say,
was gonna
like,
keep,
are you going to become like the next Sam Altman? I just saw that he's been co-founding over 100 companies out of open.
it's
I literally like it literally this new came out today, like it was on Crunchbase, it literally 100 companies. So that's what AI allows us to do, right? We're exponentially our ability to think and use our brains. So, you know, like I like perhaps like my departing thoughts is one of the things that you said, Jeremy, I think it's brilliant. It's data, right? There's all of this multiple dots in the universe. And what AI allow us to do is to be able to connect those dots and provide us the right insight to answer whatever question that we have. And, you know, like a lot of the times, a lot of the things that I see is like, we don't even know what question to ask, right? We have like, we have an idea of what we want to do, but we don't know what it is. We don't know how to get there. And I've been playing a lot with ChatGPT. Actually, I started playing with ChatGPT like in October, November of last year. And for me, it's more like learning how to prompt a question. So prompt engineering, it's actually very important. And I watch a lot of videos about it. I read a lot about it. And I learned that I actually can do due diligence in certain companies by using ChatGPT, because I can ask ChatGPT to do a SWOT analysis on a company. And I literally ask, what better questions can I ask you, ChatGPT, so you can help me give me the best answer for the problem that I'm trying to solve. And you just do this back and forth. And it's just like the amount of opportunities that comes out of it. I just think it's incredible. So it's like from helping your kid, Jeremy, to learn, you know, to be willing to play golf. And, you know, like for me, I developed a whole database. I kid you not, guys. HubSpot, we were trying to get entire Expert Dojo with a HubSpot sort of database. And it was like tens of thousands of dollars. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Per month, we're not going to spend this much. Let me see if I can build something. I'm not a coder. I'm not, you know, like I just knew what I was trying to achieve. I used ChatGPT to teach me how to, excuse me, how to code. And I developed my own database that it's like, it's a customized version of a HubSpot. So honestly, what I think about, you know, like where we're going next, I have no idea, because I think it's way beyond everything that we have. I just hope that we're going to have more free time like Alex has right now, because all the boring things that I don't want to do or I don't know how to do, ChatGPT or any other AI tool will allow me to do it. And I really cannot wait to have customized to my own personal taste, to my own personal abilities, different experience, from hospitality to, you know, branding, you know, to everything in life. I already love, you know, like having Apple Watches and things that I'm like, okay, yeah, do read, you know, like everything that I do across apps, so you can customize and provide content that it's better for me. Because, you know, like at the end of the day, the internet, I think ChatGPT and everything else with AI, they know us better than we know ourselves. And with that, it's like, it's a world that I don't even know what it is. I'm very excited. Is it scary? Absolutely. But that's getting out of your comfort zone. That's being better than you would be if you just stayed within your limited box.
That was great. I'm just so glad you're one of our investors, and I know that Luca kind of feels the same, Alex. I'd say the only mistake you've made in your investing career is you didn't get in and out on RAD at an earlier time, but that's another conversation. But you guys have some really, I mean, really some A+ thinking on the line here today. And I just think that when you think about innovation, and being scared of innovation is not the right. I mean, my belief is innovation is going to happen. You can be scared of it. You can be anti-innovation. You could be anti-technology, anti-data. You could be anti all these things all day long. The reality is innovation is coming. It's here. It's happening, whether you like it or not. And the reality associated with that innovation, like everything else in the world since the beginning of time, is there's good and there's bad and there's everything in between. So one of the things I've been blessed with is just kind of like a simplistic way of looking at things when it comes down to brass tacks. Is there a sustainable business? Is the person who's running the business an expert? Do I understand the thing that I'm trying to build a model around? But that being said, I'd like to kick it over to you, Luca, to leave us with some final thoughts. And then we will be circulating a recording of this to everybody on the line, plus both of our investor bases afterwards. But Luca, why don't you bring up the rear here, and we'll let everybody go after that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think what's very interesting and I start seeing is that there's some people that absolutely start getting what AI is about. And it's a nuanced thing. It's hard to explain, but once you like use it, and I think that's why Alex originally said, like, it's worrying me when people are not using it, even if they don't have to have an AI applications, just start familiarize with yourself so you understand the nuances of what's really happening. And that is the reason why when Jeremy showed me like what he's doing, aside of him being a friend, it wasn't even a thought for me. It was like, oh, I absolutely get it. Absolutely, let's do it. Because think about the process, and here I'm talking about my use case. I know you have multiple use cases, but think about the process of me trying to figure out what angle I should go to approach specific audience, specific influencers, are selecting these influencers. When I saw going through the process, one of the recent processes I went through, really the machine understands like what your company is doing, and the last selection of influencers being sent to me to do a campaign with them was absolutely mind-blowing. And I'm obviously talking great about you, but this is also to give a generic picture about AI, because this is something that no human beings would have been able to put that list together. This is an AI that is able to scrape, understand hundreds of millions of influencers are out there, hundreds of millions of content is being generated, but what applies to your brand, right? That's what Tess mentioned earlier. Like, there's so much data, so many informations out there. How can you make it and compile it together into something that makes sense and is digestible and it can elevate what you're doing? So that to me is like, when I start seeing it, it's almost like once you get it, you start seeing it everywhere, right? Like you see it in different sectors, and you understand that there's going to be a company in each specific vertical that understands this, brings this to consumers and businesses, and is going to revolutionize that industry. It's just a matter, and we're like right around the corner, right? Like think about, yeah, now it's early stage. You have to explain this to brands, but think about when all brands understand this and they see a product like Rad AI. And think about, well, when all hospitality companies understand, they have to find a solution. They understand, otherwise they're going to be left behind. They're not thinking that way yet, but we're like potentially months away, or maybe just no more than a couple of years away from having the masses understanding this. And that's when the game is going to change. And that's where companies positioned like us and Rad are going to really be game changers.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Luca. I appreciate you saying all those things. And I don't know about you guys, but Alex, number one, I need to get a little bit more Alex in my life. It's always a lot of fun seeing you. And I really appreciate you joining us today. Tess, I know you have a bunch of startups in your cohort right now, and whatever you guys are doing over there is something busy and fun. And I just appreciate you making time to share some wisdom with our our community here. And Luca, as usual, pleasure talking with you, jamming with you. We'll be obviously speaking with each other multiple times again this week and forevermore. Anybody and everyone that joined us today, we appreciate you guys making time out of your Thursday morning or afternoon, depending on where you are at in the world. And we will be circulating a copy of this to everybody over the next couple of days. So everybody have a wonderful day. Have a rad weekend. Be safe, stay cool if wherever it is really, really hot, and we will be in touch.